Okay, here we are with John Brown from Retro Brights even. We could say that with our teeth in this time. Hello, John. How are you?
Yeah, no, good. Voice hoarse, but good.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people turning up the last couple of days, hasn't there?
It's been a bit busy.
So, what have you brought in for us today, then, John?
Econet, the demonstration. So, we have a 1980s LAN technology for the BBC Micro, and also Acorn Electron in some rare cases.
Nice.
We'll do that in a bit. But the different bit about this one is we have a little USB to Econet interface. So this essentially turns the Econet interface into a big fat serial port. On here we have the software that's running the network. So this is doing file and print services. So we can log in and load these things from. So we can, I wrote this out. Yeah, we're using the Talk app to demonstrate that we really do have a network. We go from, there we go, Discord 1980 style.
That is nice.
But yeah, Acorn had sold this out with a file and print server, and the main reason schools went for it is price, because one of these little interfaces, 70 quid. A disk drive and its controller, 400 quid. So, you can buy an actual BBC for 400 quid, so, you went with Econet, you can have a lot more BBCs, and essentially the cost per station comes down, because once you pay for the wiring for all of them, that's it, cost sunk, then it's just 70 quid a machine to add on and get your file and print. And it meant that users had a way to store their files in their own home directories. You could do quotas and that sort of thing. So you could run it like a fairly modern system, but it is it's a proper LAN. It's not just file and print. So most people in schools, most of the uses were file and print. But here we have a nice demonstration of it using the network as a network from one machine to another. It even uses the fact that there's a broadcast system, so the stations can find each other and detect when one of them starts up. So, demo 2 just logged in. And it does that by using broadcast packets between the machines to find the station, and then direct messaging from one machine to another. So, it was a proper LAN that you could do from one to the other. There's even stuff built in for teachers. You had a command star view where a teacher could run it, put it at your workstation and see what you're doing on the screen. Or you could even remote keyboard the BBC with Star Remote. You could take it over and help the kid with whatever their problem is. Stop Star Remote and do the next kid.
So when was this actually released? Because obviously the BBC, well, maybe not the master, but the BBC itself was 1982, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Econet was released more or less at about that time as well. So the first revision to the board,
41 years ago.
Yeah, so the first revision of the board, Scott, you can solder the components on. When they got to the master, they did it as a nice little module you could just plug into the PCB, which is what that top board is. Yeah, because they had Econet for their early source system 3s and 4s and 5s, but it's a little bit different. It's what they refer to as Econet version 1. It worked a bit differently.
Yes.
Then we had version 2, which was an absolute train wreck and nobody used that. Then they reverted back to make it a bit more like Econet 1, and that's the version that the BBCs did. And then they did updated cards for the systems 3s and 4s and 5s, etc. Yeah, even the Atom had an Econet interface you could install, so you could pretty much all their 8-bit range got something, eventually including the Acorn Electron, because in Australia they sold Acorn Electrons to schools, or Boston managed to sell a few.
Oh,
and
okay.
Across the schools were like, well, we want Econet.
Yes,
so Boston was forced to develop an Econet interface for the Electron, which sold in Australia but never really came here.
I was curious why they had it for the Electron, to be fair.
Yeah, some clever fella has essentially reinvented the wheel and created an Econet interface for the Electron again now. I didn't quite get around to 3D printing the cartridge case before, but it's supposed to be in a little, cartridge type case that. So you slot it in with just a socket on the side. But 3D printer was misbehaving.
As they sometimes do, or often do.
Often do. Primary use case is to fiddle with it, right, until it does something you like. But yeah, the software side of it is, hang on, I'll see if I can wake this up. Yes.
I'll point away from you putting your password in.
Yeah, right. So yeah, what we got is a abstraction layer that essentially does all the different ways of doing packets. So we have like real Ethernet via the USB interface, but Acorn also had this thing called AUN, which was Acorn Universal Networking, because when they did the Archimedes boxes like that one there, they wanted to occasionally be able to pretend to do Ethernet over Ethernet, because we'd moved to Ethernet by then. So we did a sort of version wrapped in UDP, so you could put an Ethernet frame in there and your beam emulators and everything would work, and yeah, even your Archimedes could still talk the file server protocol that this uses. So if you had an Ethernet file server in a bridge, you could still make use of it. So this talks AUN as well, and that's what BBEM uses as well to emulate Ethernet. And the other thing I added was a WebSocket interface so that you can do JavaScript BBC emulation, and it WebSockets into that and can talk to the real Beebs or the ARCs or the BBEM on your PC.
Yeah.
So that you have that layer that does all the moving around of stuff. So it translates it to a common Ethernet packet object, and then as it goes to the station, it goes back through that layer and translates it out to whatever the target machine is on.
Yes.
Which is why you've got this then you have services running on top of that, and the bridge service is one announces what networks are available to the station. So when these start up, they scream what networks are out there, and all the bridges reply with a list of the networks they know. The BBC keeps that, and when you say you're on network 1, station 5, and you want to talk to station 5 on network 6, if it's got that in the list when it first asks, they'll drop the packet on the network with station number 6, destination 5. This will pick it up and send it to the right station on the right network.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
And then the other services on here is the sort of file and print stuff, so we can see who's logged in on what. So we have 2 stations running the test application, talk application. This little Acorn Electron logged in as test 4. If anything was actively using files, you would see what files are being used at the moment. What else we've got the print server, so you can print from one of these, and all it does is just makes a PDF and emails it to the user if you're logged in.
Sure, okay.
If you're not logged in, it just drops you in a directory.
Yeah.
But it does a nice way to do printing from a beam without actually having to put stuff on paper and have a dot matrix and all of that. You can actually get some decent looking printouts from them. What else have we got in here?
So I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
At what point did you actually get all this working before the show? How much buffer did you have between it working and the show beginning?
I stopped programming at midnight, packed the stuff in the boxes between midnight and 1, and then went to sleep, loaded car, came here. Then on the pub on Friday night, I wrote a little bit more after we got back from the pub.
See, I don't think people realise 90% of the people that exhibit here do just that.
Yeah.
You realise 48 hours before the show, oh no, I've got a show.
Yeah, it's just people in our Twitter group it's on fire. I just knew I should have changed the capacitors. No. Yeah, at least mine was all software rather than things that actually burned down. But,
True, very true.
Yeah, they were recapped long in advance. But yeah, even I had harder. Felt like I've got a dead monitor on the here that worked when I left.
Typical.
Didn't survive the car journey, did it? So I've stolen one of the museum's monitors. I'll give it back before I go. It's fine.
Yeah, within the next 10 years.
Yeah,
It's fine.
be re. Yeah, but it was a long time ago, and the bit that was complicated is you can actually put a IP version 4 ROM in there, so you can actually telnet from a BBC through the IP service that runs on here, and it will do NAT to a public thing. So I've got this little table in here that shows you what you can go for on the Ethernet side to the public side.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
from one port to another, and it's not quite NAT. It's kind of doing a reverse proxy thing. So this part can do TLS and make it secure over the internet with SSL, but it's plain text when it hits the Ethernet network.
Yeah, I see.
You're not doing SSL on a BBC Micro. That's never gonna. In fact, the keys are probably bigger than the amount of RAM that's in the BBC Micro. But yeah, so that's never going to happen. So this does the decrypt, and then it's plain text over the network. But it means you can telnet relatively securely, because the bit over the public network is encrypted.
Yes, yeah,
And unless you have someone who's decided to sit and packet sniff your Ethernet network, you're probably fine.
Yeah, I think the
You might
chances of
spot
that are
the person
slim.
who broke into your house and did that. But yeah, that's the whole thing. We would have demonstrated it telnetting, but the Wi-Fi is broken. Yeah, few too many people in yesterday, and the wireless access point gave up the ghost. So we couldn't get it to connect. But yeah, before everyone turned up, it did telnet from that slightly odd-looking BBC to a machine on the internet, and then the Wi-Fi went down. It hasn't done anything since.
Well, we've only got your word for the fact it
that
works.
is true,
But
actually, yeah.
I'll take that word though. I'll trust you.
Yeah, it worked well enough to do like basic run a few commands over telnet. It's not.
Oh, it worked amazingly. We can't prove it, but it was stunning. Believe me.
So I didn't do like any terminal emulation work. So I just wrote a term cap file for the BBC. That's the thing I did right after the pub on Friday. And as term cap files go, it's terrible. It does suck. But it was just enough to make 80 column mode sort of work and half scroll properly.
Sure,
but the arrow keys weren't going to work, or even reverse video, swap the colours around doesn't function. It's like it could in theory. Just I wanted to sleep. So yes, that was not done. But yeah, so this is the little demo, and it's the chat app's the easy thing to show people that shows it's a real live network.
No, I think it's brilliant.
Because you can't. There isn't another way you can do that. You can do it with swapping floppy disks, so you'd notice.
Exactly.
It shows you that it's a real LAN, not just file and print.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. Great stuff. Thanks ever so much, John. Next along is Adrian Graham, otherwise known as Binary Dinosaur. Hello, Adrian.
Morning.
How are you?
Excellent, thank you, now that the lease has been resurrected.
So we've got a very smiling Kim Justice in the background. Say hello, please. Fantastic. Nice little cameo, thank you.
It's not called Cameo Kim for nothing.
Cameo Kim. So, what have you bought for us, Adrian? Well, I know half of us can tell what you've bought. But talk us through it.
Well, I thought I'd spread a few years of technology change just to show you what the difference in development of machines between 1978 NASCOM 1, which sold for the princely sum of less than £200.
Wow. Let's just get the keyboard in there. So this is one you've been working on, isn't it?
That was given to me as an unfinished kit, because the chap who was building it couldn't get it working. And the reason he couldn't get it working is because the factory introduced a short circuit on one of the boards. So he'd never have got it working unless he'd found that short circuit.
So how much of a shame when it's a kit for people with no YouTube, no reference other than, the odd person that might know how to solder.
And only things like newsletters where they can write to and maybe expect an answer within the next month or 3.
Yeah, exactly. And next thing you know, they're fighting a lost cause.
Yeah, well, he did join the Merchant Navy, but I don't think the two events are related.
You never know, though. Okay, so NASCOM 1.
So NASCOM 1, 1978. It's the oldest thing I have today, aside from me. And we moved to BBC Model A from 1981, which everybody's seen BBCs, everybody knows what a BBC is, particularly in this building.
Yes.
But this one is the cleanest, most unadulterated one I've ever seen.
Yes.
In that it has no upgrades apart from an extra 16K and an extra chip, so it can run Snapper, the Pac-Man clone.
Oh.
Otherwise known as Pac-Man. We'll change the graphics. Please don't sue us.
And it's also got the incredibly early.
Yes, the very flamey linear power supply, which is extra groovy purely because on the back it has your proper old school BBC logo.
Oh, look at that.
But yes, they were famously ran hot, and even though they had some vent slots in, that's where the case was. So they couldn't vent, and they regularly caught fire. So that's why that's here.
There you go. You and your flaming beeps.
I know. Flaming beeps, mate.
Flaming beep.
And we move on to the positrons, which originally was just one machine that we knew existed, and now it's 2 machines that we know exist.
I mean, we covered this in the Dragon video as well, so maybe we can put a link to this in the description. We had a good talk about the positron there. But this is a beast. I mean, give us a little bit of it about it while you're on the...
Well, the one that you're currently looking at was used by Channel 4 to produce all their teletext pages for 4Tel when they launched in 1983. So this thing, I know in the Dragon video you asked me to put the lid on, and that makes it an even bigger thing.
It does indeed.
And it's just an absolute beast of a machine. And there was a visitor yesterday who used to work for Positron on that board.
Really?
Yeah.
Goodness me.
So hopefully he's gonna come back today because he lives locally, and he's keen to help me try and resurrect them both. So that would be very special.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, I've never seen a working. Well, I've never seen one other than yours, to be fair. And I think if you Google it,
you can show you pictures of that one working. But yeah, if you Google Positron 9000, all you find is me and other people talking about that machine, with all the efforts that we've got to reverse engineer it and try and get it back to life. I now have schematics for it, so that should help a lot in letting me bring it back to life.
Oh, massively, yeah.
Pretty splendid.
So, moving on to the last one.
Star of the show.
What is this? I've never heard of this company before, let alone this machine. What is this all
It's
about?
a little-known company called Apple,
Oh, really?
who had an excellent idea in 1983 to release a machine that was so massively complex and not very well received that they didn't sell that many of them.
I don't think you truly understand through pictures and photos sometimes how actually deep this is.
Yeah.
And you can see my hand that this does go back a fair way.
Here's an A4 brochure. Bigger than an A4 brochure.
That's a deep, complex
They are
machine.
absolute beasts, and it weighs a ton because it's all metal internally, it's all metal shielding, and it's an absolute pleasure to work on. But it's slow, and it's clunky, and it's beautiful. And I absolutely love them to bits. So when it was launched in March '83, it featured on the launch issue of Personal Computer News, and I picked that up in the newsagent, saw this thing on the front that I must have one of those, opened it up, £10,000. I'm not going to get one of those.
They're not much cheaper now, to be fair.
Well, it took me 17 years, and I got that one for $100 in Boston, Massachusetts. So I had to bring it home, try and get it home in one piece.
Did it come home in one piece?
It did, but then Heathrow lost it.
Oh, really?
2 weeks later, it rocked up outside the house in a taxi. So they'd found it and taxied it from London to Newcastle. And it worked. First thing I did, plugged it in, and it worked.
Look at that, 17 years ago. That's even before Uber.
No, that's
doing
23 years ago when I got that.
Oh, 17 and a half years after you wanted it, of course, yeah.
Took year 2000 I got this.
And it still works.
Well, it didn't yesterday. It failed yesterday.
What was wrong with it yesterday?
Power supply. I just happened to have another Lisa, so I ripped the power supply out of that. And
La-di-da.
took. Doesn't everybody have two?
Oh, they were sold in pairs, weren't they?
Yeah, so I pulled the power supply out, took all the reefers out of it so we didn't have a nasty explosion in here today. So I was slaving over a hot soldering iron at 7:30 this morning.
Oh, it's definitely worth it though to see one running, like an original running is brilliant.
It had to be done. Once I knew DOSFox was coming with their clone.
Yes, we'll get to
Have you
that as
done
we're going
DOSFox?
around. Yes, yeah.
You'll see DOSFox's clone, and that is a special thing. That's brilliant.
Yes.
So
Actually, while we're linked to you, I'm just going to move round to their display. This is the Lisa clone. So it's just an incredible achievement to me. That's amazing.
it's clone boards that they've built up themselves. It's running an original Lisa memory board, but the I/O and the CPU cards are modern reproductions.
And that's incredible. There's some real talent out there, isn't it?
It's brilliant,
people.
yeah.
And a real labour of love as well. It's just great. And as you can see by this, they survived the first day, which is It's really something.
Which is more than mine did.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, it's more than the original could ever do. Right, well, thanks ever so much, Adrian. Pleasure as always, and we'll see you at the next event. Thanks, mate.
See you later.
We're here with Dave Williams, or Devilish Dave's Designs, as he's known online. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm okay. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. So, tell us, what have you bought today?
We'll start at the noisy end, which is teletype. That's hooked up to the National Semiconductor IMP16. This is regarded to be the first 16-bit microcomputer.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so it's 1973 vintage. It's a bit slice processor, so you've basically got 4 chips there which contain the registers and ALU, and then there's a control ROM which is the instruction set. So yeah, it's a full 16-bit machine.
Incredible.
One of its main claims to fame is the CPU was used in the Aston Martin Lagonda Series 2 to control the digital dashboard. And
I'm not ashamed to say, I did not know that.
it found some other uses in aerospace, but yeah, it wasn't commercially successful.
What an incredible machine, though. That really is nice.
Yeah. So yeah, at the moment I've only got like the editor and assembler for it.
Okay.
So it can develop software for the machine once I learn how to do it. But we're really after trying to find the cross compiler for the SCMP processor. So that means we can recompile the kit bug and the SIOS for the MK14, which would have been developed on this system.
So if anyone else anyone out there is watching this that might have access to that or knows someone with access to it,
any documentation for this machine, I'd love to find some more.
that'd be amazing. So hopefully the comments will come crashing in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Inundated with software, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what's next along the line?
This is what could be regarded as the first 8-bit microcomputer.
Oh.
So this is Intel's development system for the 8008 processor.
Try and get
So
a
this is
aerial shot of
1972.
Yep.
That's the CPU there, that tiny little chip, clocked at 500 kilohertz.
Oh, 500k.
Yeah, you've got 1K of memory, and then each of these EEPROMs is 256 bytes.
Oh, wow.
So this system would have been connected up to a teletype again.
Hang on, sorry, 1972.
Yes.
Incredible.
Old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would normally have had an EEPROM programmer in the back for programming the 1702 EEPROM
Okay.
chips. So it was designed, hook it up to a teletype, you would develop your software on there, program your EEPROM, bang your EEPROM in there, and then use that in whatever application you were using the 8008 in.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. That really is.
Fortunately, it's not working at the moment. And again, if anybody's got any software and documentation for this, I'd love to know.
Seeing as there's only one person I've ever seen with this, hopefully, more will come
A few
flooding
people
in.
have got them. Yeah.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, a few people got the boards, and there's a couple of base units knocking around, but there's no real software archived. And considering it's an Intel machine, there's so little information.
Yeah, you'd imagine something, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully again.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
This is basically... And welcome to Dave's request for software.
Yes,
on today's episode.
Yeah, it's coming up to Christmas, so
just
Christmas
send
list. Yeah. And the next one is a Mark 8. Again, it uses the same processor as the 8008.
Is it possible to take the perspex off just for the video? Because getting a lot of reflection off there, and I don't think it's doing it justice.
Yeah, you need to see the blinking lights.
Oh, look at this. So this is a Mark 8, you say?
Yeah, so this is vintage. It would have been built in the 70s. So the Mark 8, it was never sold as an assembled machine or a kit. For $5 you could get a set of plans, or for $50 you could buy the plans and get a set of PCBs.
Oh, okay.
So the person who built this one has obviously etched their own PCBs.
Quite close.
Which is not an easy task in the mid-70s.
Certainly
especially because it's double-sided boards as well.
And also, there's no YouTube reference, and unless you actually knew someone to show you how to do this, or you worked in that situation,
Yeah.
there was very little information to actually, learn how to do these things.
Yeah. So they've done a really neat job of making these boards. But my OCD is kicked into overdrive. The fact they're not straight.
Yeah, it's a rare one actually.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of building it. It's got 512 bytes of memory. These are the original switches and the original lights. And I've built the base unit to contain a power supply and newer switches. These are really stiff and it causes the front panel to wobble if you try and use them. So.
Oh, so these are just
Yeah, they're
mirrors,
the original,
mirrors
but,
basically. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not using those.
That is lovely. Well done with the base, by the way. I mean, all your stuff looks great, but it's really a good way of preserving these as well. Is putting them in a nice display with the perspex and everything. It really does look fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not doing much at the moment. It's just counting up through memory. But
So, if anyone out there's got any software for the marker,
I've actually got some. I need to build a memory upgrade board for it first of all.
so we can actually do another side. If anyone needs some software for the marker,
Yeah, yes.
okay. And last but definitely not least, in any form at all, what have we got here?
This is the baby Altair. So after the famous Altair 8800, MITS decided they needed a cheaper option to compete with the likes of the SWT-PC, which is based around the 6800 processor from Motorola. So they came up with this thing. I thought, right, what new set of mistakes can we make on this machine? So they crippled this so it didn't eat into sales of the 8800 by limiting the clock speed to half the speed it would normally clock that. So it
right.
didn't compete that way. The front panel is next to useless because while you can change the memory, you've only got deposit. You haven't got deposit next or examine next. So you've got to basically set your address, set your data, deposit it, set your address, set your data, deposit it.
Unbelievable.
But nobody ever done that anyway because it's got a ROM monitor as standard. So you just hook up a terminal and off you go. But, which is great, but again, they limited that so you could load from paper tape, but you can't save to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't put that functionality in, you have to sort that out.
So just put a size comparison in it. So that's my hand actually on it.
Yeah, so
You can see how much more smaller that is than an actual Altair 8080.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I've never seen one in person before.
The really good thing, which it does have though, is it has Tiny Basic, or equivalent in Tiny Basic called VTL.
Oh, okay.
Very tiny language. So it's similar to Basic, but really cut down. But it fits into 768 bytes of ROM.
Okay.
So it's really small. It's really impressive what they've done with it.
So I did one thing okay.
Yeah, I think it was actually written by a third party and then incorporated. So, yeah.
Don't big them up too much, will you?
No,
Doc?
no.
As always, absolutely brilliant what you brought, and really appreciate that, mate. And see you at the next event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
Right, so on this table we've got some lovely MTX machines, and to tell us all about them is the wonderful Steve and Usher. How you doing, Steve?
Oh, not bad, thanks.
Nice to
Yeah.
see you, mate. Right, talk
Yeah,
us through
so-
your display then.
Right, have a couple of lovely brushed aluminium machines.
They really are nice. They really are nice.
Yeah, basically, Memotech originated making memory expansions for the ZX81.
Yep.
Then other expansions such as keyboards, high-resolution graphics cards and stuff. And then they decided, well, why don't we get in on making the actual computers as well? So I think it was in late 82 I first saw an article with their blue prototype machine on the front cover of your computer magazine and immediately fell in love with. Anyway, so there were various articles after that, and then finally in late 83 they released the two main machines. So we've got
So what we got here then?
we got the MTX 500, which came with 32K of usable RAM plus 16K video RAM. So all of the 32K was available for programs. The MTX 512, exactly the same, except we had a base memory of 64K.
Okay.
They're basically the same machine, just one with the half crippled chips like in the Spectrum.
Yep.
In addition to that, for the home market, they also had an upgrade. So you had the floppy disk expansion, which included an 80-column card, up to 2 floppy drives, and a 256K, what they called silicon disk, which is really just 256K RAM with a battery backup. So you could format that as a floppy drive, copy your software on there, boot directly from it really quickly, and a solid state drive.
So, do you know what the price comparison was between buying the machine or buying the FDX? Was it like double the machine's cost?
Oh, more than that.
Oh, wow.
The 500 was about 229, I think it was, to buy. The 512 was, I think it's 269. The floppy disk expansion with the full CPM capability was about £700.
Goodness me.
But then this was 1983 prices. The two machines here, actually, this is my original one from Christmas of '84.
This just shows how well it holds up, though. I mean, that brushed aluminium really does.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
No need for retro brightening or anything like that.
Just a bit of black shoe polish.
Yeah. Well, no.
No, I know.
Furniture polish.
Polish to furnish.
Yes,
It's easy for you to say.
especially today. In this case, I've got an expansion connected to the external, which simulates just basically a floppy disk interface.
Yep.
Produced by Dave Stevenson, who I believe worked for Memtech back in the day. Actually, the community, the Memtech community, although quite small, probably about half of it was Memtech employees and the original software writers.
Wow.
So in this case, this is the MSX version of Pac-Man that was ported with the help of Andy Key, who was one of the original writers of the software. So we've got a number of software titles from Continental Software and Megastar Games, which are both internal to Memtech.
Yeah.
There. So boots into here, so I can just go into normal basic and use it's the same modified version of the same ROM that appeared in the original machines.
Right. Okay.
In here, I've got a later 2 year from last year, an expansion, which is basically the ultimate expansion. It's using an FPGA to simulate the video display processor and the 80-column card. So this can boot and become the same machine as you have here with the full upgraded 512K of RAM. It's got, if you come to the side here, we've got an Ethernet port.
Oh, I missed all this before. Yeah.
Which you can run an FTP or HTTP daemon within CPM, and then upload and download software to the SD card. It's, as I say, it's got the emulation of all the floppy disk expansion.
Yep.
And so yes, you've got the full business machine. £1,000 worth. It would cost you £1,000 worth in 1983.
Yeah. That's brilliant how they've condensed that down.
Yes.
And it fits really neatly into the end.
Yes, in here you've got an expansion bay you've got external expansion on the side here, and a mirror image of that edge connector inside for internal expansions.
So I don't think a lot of people realise the actual Memtech keyboard motherboard only comes up to about that size. Yeah. So I've got all that room for an internal card, which is really, really good.
In this one, I've got the original communications board, which just fit. Well, you can find the. Basically, if you can look here, it slots into the side here. You
Yep.
just bolt in the external things, and that's it.
Oh, great stuff.
Mematech itself survived until 1995. They were killed by trying to sell to the Russian market, education market. They got a £1 million grant or a loan from the British government to go into the Russian market. They got to the point of even building pre-production machines in red to match the Russian flag. They gave the contract to the Russians. Well, are you going to sign it? And the Russians turned around to them saying, "Thank you for all this lovely, really helpful information and to making these machines, but we just bought a large number of MSX machines from Japan at less than cost price. Goodbye."
Oh no!
So they had to pay the £1 million back to the British government and went bust.
Oh, what a shame.
But one of the directors bought the assets, relaunched the company for a short time, selling these with a slightly different logo,
Oh, okay.
but also developed the graphics card. They were already designing a high-color graphics card and modified it. So it then became a video wall system that they could sell to corporate companies. You could have, I think it was 12 monitors by 12 monitors,
Yeah.
display images for corporate boardrooms or the entrance halls for big corporations.
Yeah, just general displays.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
And they went on to do that, I think, until the early 90s.
Fantastic.
And that was the end.
Yeah.
But
And so ends a legacy of lovely, possibly, in my view, one of the most beautiful machines. It really is. Stop touching it.
yes, everyone wants to.
I don't care if it's yours, you're not allowed to.
You're allowed to as well.
All right, thanks ever so much, Steve,
problem.
and we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Thanks, mate.